Hi everyone, this is John Girardi with Right to Life of Central California, bringing you another in our daily series of videos that we're producing every day during 40 Days for Life. 40 Days for Life is the international campaign of prayer and presence outside of abortion clinics throughout the country. If you want to learn more about our 40 Days for Life campaign, you can go to rtlcc.org or give us a call at 559-229-2229. Today, we're going to be talking about the possibility of a vaccine for the coronavirus and abortion. This is something I've been asked by a lot of pro-lifers about. What's going to happen if this coronavirus vaccine is made with aborted babies? This is sort of the way that a lot of people phrase it. So first, we got to be specific with our language. There are certain vaccines that are available in this country which are not made directly with body parts of aborted children. They're made from cell lines that are derived from the bodies of fetuses that were aborted many, many years ago. This is not directly putting a baby's body or organic material from a baby into your bloodstream, okay? It's something different. It doesn't mean that that the killing of that child that happened, in some cases decades ago, it does not mean that the killing of that child wasn't wrong. It was wrong. It was very grievously evil. But I think some people sort of hear about this and don't have quite the correct notion of what's going on. They basically think that these vaccines are more or less the equivalent of cannibalism or something, like I'm eating a dead baby or something horrible like that, which is not what it is. This is not something that is in and of itself. Using a vaccine that utilizes this kind of material is not something that's intrinsically wrong. Now, it might be wrong because you are creating a market for killing babies further through abortion in order to get cell lines. That's an open question. But it isn't in and of itself something that's inherently evil or wrong, something like cannibalism would be. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to put to rest, is that concern. Now, in our organizational thoughts about this, one of the things that's really guided us is some writings on this topic that were produced by Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger. You may know the name. Joseph Ratzinger went on to be elected Pope Benedict XVI, and his writings on the topic basically represented official Catholic Church teaching on this. And whether you're Catholic or not, I think the wisdom of what Joseph Ratzinger wrote about this is really applicable, and I hope it's valuable to all of you. Basically, Cardinal Ratzinger was asked in the early 2000s by someone from a pro-life organization in the United States what the Catholic Church taught about the use of certain kinds of vaccines, which, as I'm saying, utilized the cell lines derived from a child who had been aborted decades ago. And this was a very short question, and Cardinal Ratzinger gave it a very long, detailed response. And basically what he talked about was there are different ways in which someone might be participating in evil in a material way, but not in a formal way. You might be doing something that's physically advancing an evil, but you're not cooperating with the evil intention, and the amount of physical help you're giving is for a certain kind of good reason, and it's not something that you're intending to help the evil end come about, okay? A good example of this is, for example, if you're a taxi driver and you pick up a guy to get in your taxi, and he says, "Take me to the strip club." Now, if you're a good, upright person as a taxi driver, you're not morally culpable for the sins that man's going to commit at the strip club necessarily if you drive him there. Now, if you have more freedom within the circumstances of your work, supporting your family, etc., to not have to take a passenger like that, if you have that leeway, you can choose not to. But it's not necessarily sinful if you need the job, if you can't just deny people rides, if you don't have that flexibility within the context of your job, it's not necessarily sinful for you to drive that guy. Similarly, in the context of vaccines, particularly for very infectious diseases, a lot of times people don't have the alternative to take a different kind of vaccine. And the good that's accomplished by a vaccine, by lots and lots of people taking those vaccines, is something that's really, really positive for society and important for the health and safety, sometimes of children or of loved ones. So the moral calculus that Cardinal Ratzinger came to was we should always advocate for the humane production of vaccines that don't utilize cell lines from aborted children. We should try, whenever there's an alternative that doesn't involve cell lines taken from aborted children, to use the alternative that doesn't involve that cell line. But if we don't have alternatives, and there is a serious public health need, which there is, even with youth vaccinations, according to Cardinal Ratzinger, then it is morally permissible for us to take advantage of it. Okay. Again, Cardinal Ratzinger didn't view these vaccines, even if they have cells at some point derived from a child who was aborted decades ago from that cell line. He didn't view this as something along the lines of cannibalism or something that's inherently wrong. In the context of a coronavirus vaccine, there are a number of different people who are trying to produce a vaccine right now. Most of them are not utilizing cells derived from children who were aborted. A few of them are. Not most of them, but one or two of them. Now, we at Right to Life Central California have joined with the U.S. Catholic bishops in advocating with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, that the United States federal government push for a vaccine that does not utilize those cell lines derived from aborted children. That is something that we are pushing for, and I think all of you should push for, and we have a link to that at our Facebook page and also on the website. Nevertheless, if a coronavirus vaccine is produced from one of these cell lines, it may very well be morally permissible. If there's no other alternative, it may be morally permissible for pro-life people in good conscience to take advantage of this. One of the ways of thinking about this is, one of the ways my dad talks about thinking about this are the Nazi doctors. Nazi doctors did horrible, horrible abuses to people they were doing experiments on, to Jews in concentration camps and others. They did horrible, inhumane experiments on them. But some of them learned a whole heck of a lot. There's a lot of valuable knowledge that's derived from it. Now, if someone like my dad, who's a physician, were in some way to derive knowledge or expertise or medical training from the research of one of those Nazi doctors, is he approving of their evil? Is he supporting their evil? Is he advancing their evil? No, he's not. And he's certainly also not incentivizing more and more of that evil in any way, shape, or form. And he can decry the horrible human rights abuses that resulted in that information being produced. Nevertheless, it's not necessarily immoral for him or for other researchers to take advantage of that after that threat is passed. And again, these are cell lines derived from children who were aborted, in some cases, decades ago. It's not necessarily incentivizing the creation of more of these kinds of cell lines. And for very solid moral reasons, if there are no alternatives, it is morally permissible in certain cases for people of good faith to take advantage of these vaccines, again, when there are no alternatives. That's our view here at Right to Life. For Right to Life, I'm John Girardi.